beginning to end. So,
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. This evening we focus on an institution called police. Words like law and order, prevention of crime, but also protecting and serving. That has been at the helm of the institution since its inception in 1906. But in the most recent past, things like crime, corruption, scapegoating, politicking have been at the forefront of it, especially the rise in crime in the most recent time. If anything has happened to any of a relative or a friend, you have seen it on social media. If you've heard of, quote unquote, the flying kick. The biggest question is, what is happening to the security in this country? Why is law and order getting out of hand? And with elections around the corner, what should we expect, especially looking at how the heightening of violence during elections has happened? Those are the two critical questions we're asking ourselves. Crime and the election security. That's the biggest conversation we're going to have tonight. You can be part of our conversation. Join us on YouTube, drop your comment there, or go to our X platform, #UBC Behind the Headlines. Let us know what you think, or the number 0709 62 25 90. Let us know what you think, and we'll be able to read some of your comments even as we go on. Let's meet the panel. On my immediate left, she's always here with me, and to discuss such patent issues from all angles, Professor Sarah Sally, the Dean at the School of Women and Gender Affairs at Makerere University. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, Timothy, and good evening, our viewers.
Hosting him for the first time on this show, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Hassan Kasinje, is with us and is still a consultant in areas matters security. Good evening, sir.
good evening to you and good evening, viewers.
Someone sent me a comment when I put you on X and said, tell him he's a darling. So I had to make sure I deliver the comment.
All right, thank you so much.
He is seasoned member of parliament representing the people of Remiaga, and also a member of the Defense and Internal Committee in Parliament, Honorable Theodore Sechkubo. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, and good evening, dear viewers.
Lastly but not least, Senior Superintendent of Police, Donald Muhwezi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you. Good evening to the viewers and the panelists.
And it's good to host the three gentlemen. It's the first time to host the three of you, so thank you for gracing us with your presence today and also accepting our invite. Let's get into the gist of it. The latest we have seen is, in the last few days, a gentleman that was really attacked by thugs when he was approaching his home in Kawala, and that's where we're going to begin our conversation today. And Afande Donald, let me start with you. What is breeding this new wave of crime in the country, in your view?
Thank you, and our dear viewers. One, I am excited and happy to share the studio with one of my mentors.
Wow.
Especially in the field of community policing, and one of the pioneers of community policing in the Uganda Police Force. Back to your issue, the country is awash with videos of similar incidents in the same area, Kampala. When you talk about security, different communities have different issues and unique. What is happening in my area of Kazo, Chiruhura, Zimbabwe may not be the same that is happening here in Kampala. So when viewers watch us, they need to get the entire story of the security at the community level, at the personal level, and then at the national level. Because when you watch those videos, you may think, we can't get out of this studio. But when you go to Kabalagala now, when you go to Ntinda, or when you go to Park, you will travel to Kisoro and back at night. If you go to Namugongo or those roads leading to Kampala, you will see people walking freely. So what is happening here is an organized crime coming out of what I want to call the breakdown in homes. Because what you see does not start that very day. There's what we call the broken window theory. When there is a crack in the window and you don't deal with it, it will expand with time. The day it breaks is not the day it happens. That young man kicking people did not begin that evening. He must have been an issue at home, a problem in the community, and by the time we see him, it's a broken window. So when we discuss security, and most people have a tendency of apportioning blame to the institution, correctly, because you have a duty in the Constitution to protect life and property, but they intentionally forget that the same Constitution gives responsibility to citizens. In Article 17F, to help institutions or agencies responsible for security in doing its work. Because the framers of the Constitution were aware that you will never have every police officer in everybody's house or room. You've seen cases where wives and husbands kill each other. Would you deploy a police officer in somebody's bedroom? Absolutely not. So what is happening is stakeholders in this concept called security not doing their work, and you have one institution holding so many things that you end up having others falling.
Afande, when you talk about it, yes, there is blame to be apportioned in every area, especially in the breakdown. But also, you seem to be abdicating the role of you creating a safe environment in response to some of the things people have spoken about. The call to police to respond. The call to police when they ask, you know what, we don't have fuel. We cannot be able to deliver such. But also the crime, you don't seem to, the other thing that you have is detect and prevent crime. When we come to that aspect that falls under police, have you read these areas? There are things like Kawukumi that have been spoken about. The things that you know some of these criminals well, when we talk about Boda 2010, when we talk about Sobi, Chifesi, do you have a portion of blame for you as Uganda police?
Absolutely. Like I told you, we have a duty in the Constitution to protect life and property. And whenever we lose life or property, we are as guilty as the person who has done so. That's number one. And it's very obvious. And whoever is blaming police is doing it so rightly. But the same Constitution, knowing that, I mean, look at our numbers. You must have a force multiplier. When you say detect and prevent, the Constitution was clear about it, that you have a civilized community, you have an informed community, you have a mobilized community that will give timely information to police. Ask yourself, when do we get information? You have an incident happening, the responders don't have immediate contacts for police officers. I've been discussing this all over the media, that even if you have an Inspector General of Police as your relative, when you call him at night, he will not respond to any scene. He will call the RPC will call the DPC will call the OC. How about if you had a number for the OC of your area? Wouldn't that cut short the response time, which everybody is crying about? You have a police station a kilometer from you. You have no idea what is happening there. You do not know how many police officers are in that police station. The difference between what the public expects from us and reality is so wide. Why? You have a community that is not bothered. The time they want response, he scrolls down the numbers in phone. He has one for Honorable Sechikuba. Honorable Sechikuba will call people at his level. The director operation will call RPC. Won't that take an hour? Won't you blame police? But there must be somebody to do his duty. There are so many things a citizen must do that when you fail to do them, the police will not do as expected. You have no lights on your house, you are not on a WhatsApp group of your community, you don't attend security meetings in your area, you have no relationship with your nearest police station. How then do I detect and prevent crime?
Thank you very much. Let me come to Honorable Sechikubo. Honorable, when you see, especially social media that has been awash with these videos of crime, in your view, both sitting on the Defense and Internal Committee there, but also the institution of police, when you put a lens to it, Where are we as a country, and where should we be?
Well, thank you. I've listened in very attentively. But you see, there are areas I want to agree with him, and others I feel probably the police would do more. Not only the police, but other state security agencies and organs. Because, yes, it's true there is that community responsibility. We started from the breakdown of at the family level. Yes, but look, this is the country, and that's why there is government. There is government. You must answer to that question. Not must you expect that we are at the same level of understanding that there shall be family, community, neighborhood responsibilities. Those sometimes break down. But now the critical question is, as the moderator pointed out, with these other gangs and groups, what decisive action have we taken as government to stamp them out? I thought that one is equally important. Yes, there are failures here and there. The neighborhood policy has failed, etc. But at the end of the day, there is government. Government cannot be everywhere, but where there is systemic failure, when you talk about the chiefesses, they've not just happened now. They've been around us. What decisive action did government take against the chiefesi and all these other, gangs that have happened? You've mentioned so, but how come that even the gang members are absorbed in the legitimate law and order institutions like police, like the LDU? You remember in the past there was some innovation about crime preventers. It was a good innovation, so that each and every community, they are the vigilantes and crime preventers. But then in the wisdom of police, they integrated them and incorporated them as the former police officers. The idea of them remaining active in the community was overtaken by their being brought and centralized under the Uganda police. To me, as I sit on that committee, the notion of crime preventers was these young people working and staying in their communities, being the first to respond to such. Now, when you took them over, the result is what we are seeing. That no, why don't you report to the nearest police station? Mind you, at this stage, I think police gradually phased out the so-called police posts, those small units around, and they integrated them into police stations. But police stations cannot reach deep in the community, so that crime can be detected, so that criminals can be handled instantly there. And what would be the alternative? The alternative would be strengthening and activating the mobile police patrol units. Unfortunately, Mr. Mhoes knows very well, it has been quite a while since the patrol vehicles have been replenished. They're all down, and there is no budget. Even the other quick motorcycles, and I last saw them, they were last put in place during the time of General Kaihura, where you had motor riders who could respond very rapidly to a given place and situation. They were all grounded. The patrol vehicles are almost all getting grounded. I remember recently we had 59 districts with no district police pickup or vehicle. 59. 59 of them when they appeared before the committee. Districts without police vehicles, patrol vehicles, even the police vehicles used at the district police station for deployment, for quick movement, for this and that. They didn't have any. So at the end of the day, I think, yes, there has been laxity on the part of the community, but looking at the institution of police, they moved away from that community level policing, centralized. I think the notion then was this police posts were vulnerable to attacks. You remember around Ruero, they consolidated them, and down there they left vacuum. And the would-be intervention would be quick response. But once you don't have the facilities to enable you to move, you don't have the communication gadgets for you to move, once you don't have the eyes, you see what belongs to everybody belongs to nobody. If there is nobody taking care of the security at the community and village level, I think that's where we have a problem now. And lastly, what robust steps and measures have we taken?
And we're going to come to that one, Honorable. The question I want to put to you, and I think Afande Donald mentioned it, and you have alluded to it, the problem of welfare of officers. You're talking about no patrols, no motorcycles, but you are the ones that apportion money to police. What are you doing to facilitate them so that Ugandans' lives and property is safe?
Now, I think even that, you are still talking about the operational side. These are experts. They can talk more about it. The operations, how quick are you? But then you've pointed out a very big determinant. The welfare goes beyond the equipment and facilities at your disposal. It goes to look at even the police officer whom you expect to respond. Probably this can tell, but we are in a situation where the police barracks are getting phased out. Police barracks, where you could quickly summon police officers, they are getting phased out. Policemen, police officers are finding their own accommodation anywhere and everywhere. You can't have them in one place. Look at this police officer. Right. Start with his motivation. How is he standing? And what I'm looking at, even this budget, you see, under law and order sector, under the gyros, now even narrow that down to police, to the armed institutions we have, the army, the police and prisons. What is their level of remuneration? Look at it. How come that now the tendency is more towards the EPDF? And yet the police is the face, the face of law enforcement in any country. It is the police. But how are we taking care of them? The police. But now what we are seeing is that discrepancy. How do we remunerate them? How do we look at their welfare? They have families, they have homes, they have children to take to school. They need now to respond to crime wherever and whenever it happens. They have to be on standby. How are they facilitated? So I think we need to look at that whole and big picture to see this police officer whose mandate is protect and serve, but where do you get him to perform exactly his duty, his or her duty? And that's where the challenge is. And the more we run away from that, I think is the more we are failing to respond to that very question. And lastly from me, when police was on top of the situation, their budget had been increased to 1.2 trillion. But over the years, it has been diminishing. And I think this time now running around 800 billion. And yet the population is increasing, the responsibilities are increasing, the cost of living is increasing, the operational costs themselves are increasing, but their budget keeps on shrinking. And that's why I think if we go by this trend, you'll have your force badly equipped, badly motivated, and to that extent, I doubt whether they will be in position to respond efficiently and effectively to challenges of law and order in society.
Thank you very much. And very absurd, this week I think I saw Kanungu celebrating receiving their first dog. It was very absurd to see a dog show up in a district. But let me come to you, Afande Kasenje. When you look at the ideology of police, the one you served 33 years, and the ideology of the military, at what point do these ideologies meet? Because for the last few years, after the probe that came in from Lady Justice Julia Sebtinde, that brought in General Katumba, that brought in General Kale, what is the difference in the ideologies and what's the doctrine of police?
Thank you so much. One of the things that will power an institution live around the police, but also an institution which is mandated to protect the people of Uganda. There are so many laws, there's the Constitution, there is the Police Act, and all these is ideology. A correct ideology powers a police officer to be able to deliver. And the ideology is about delivering services to Ugandans, to the citizens. That is the end state. Is that whatever we do as police officers is to make sure that people are secure, their lives and properties are secure, that they have investigated crimes, that they have prevented, actually that should be the first event, they have prevented crimes, but they have also worked hand in hand with other security agencies in order to make sure that the country is safe and secure. The ideology, therefore, is that as I enter the police, I have come to serve the people of Uganda and other people who live in this country who may not be Ugandans. That is the ideology. The ideology is serving above self. The ideology is making sure that I am out there and people are safe and secure. The ideology is that I must protect these people. They are trying to make a living. Look, if citizens, if Ugandans in villages, what do they depend on? Growing some few crops and that kind of thing. They have animals. And if thieves are going to come every night and take the animals, or steal the crops that they have grown, that is what they depend on. And unfortunately, sometimes it is subsistence because that's what they depend on. And if people are going to come and take them, then that threatens the security of the country because that is food security. Okay, we're talking about food security. There are other issues, schools and all these institutions. Now, the correct ideology of a police officer is that you must prevent any threat to any Ugandan that is likely to make them, begin to worry, what we call fear of crime. If they are going to fear all the time, and while you are there, then that brings a big problem. So for me, that is what must be done. And there shouldn't be any difference between the convergence of ideology between the army or UPDF for that matter, and the police, because we all serve a state called Uganda. And for me, I applaud the forces, because now I see the training programs being the same, taking them for ideological training, high and advanced ideological training, to institutions like Chankwanza and others, and have senior command and staff courses that are done in a kind of, you know, a joint. You find, for example, here in Bwebaja, you find the prisons, you find the police, and you find the UPDF. They are training together. There are other courses at even higher level where you find some police officers, for example, have gone to, are they called, actually the Steve's command, senior command, and staff colleges. Police officers who have done these courses in Nairobi, in Uganda here, they have been done. So there shouldn't be any problem in as far as that this ideology is for the army, this ideology. The ideology is enshrined in the Constitution. And actually, by the way, when you look at the mandate of the police, if you study it so well, the mandate of the police, especially when you look at what article is that? 212? Article 212D, which talks about working hand in hand with other security agencies, making sure that you serve the people of Uganda, working hand in hand with the leadership and the population generally. That is the ideology that should be able to power them. Yes.
And sticking to that, as you have spoken, Afande, the notion is the forces of the army, it's us and them. The idea is us and them. The idea of police is managing society.
Yes.
That differs with managing the territorial integrity of the country to you managing society. Where is the breakdown here?
No, I see differently. Even when the army is fighting or protecting the territorial integrity of the country, who do they work with? It's the population. They work with the population. The threats that we have had in Eastern Congo, they have been able to be sorted out because our forces are working hand with the population. You saw what happened in Kasese. The people had seen them and they helped the forces. I think what we're talking about here is that has the police or have the police reached at that nexus? Have they reached at that point where you say that they are ideologically grounded? As former CPC, we have not reached there. Okay? And I hope you will agree with me that we need to do a lot, or they need to do a lot in order to make sure that we reach that level that we're talking about, the UPDF. I think in the UPDF now, the difference that you can have is that the emphasis is put on this, which we must be able. But I'm happy they are developing the doctrine. For all these years, you talked about 1906 up to today. We've not developed a doctrine of the police. So if you're going to have people who are like, I'm seeking a job, okay? In other areas in the political economy, we used to call them target workers.
Just think there, Fande.
Yeah.
If you haven't worked on the software and you're expecting the hardware to give you results,
yeah,
isn't that putting the cart before the horse and expecting results?
Yes, that is exactly what I was coming to. I was saying if you're going to have someone who is, I am performing a job, right? I have been told to do this. This is what I'm doing. The implications, that is not my business. You must be able to define your job in relation to the people that you're protecting. Because it is those people that are inherently or invariably that are going to be able to serve you. Now, I think we shall reach there, but I think now we need to start looking at who do we recruit? How do we recruit that person? what do we teach him? How do we train them? It's 1 year that you take to train somebody from Kavari and bring him to the police. What is that training? What does it entail? Is the training at the end of the day going to produce a police officer that first of all is patriotic, is ideologically grounded, understands that it is the citizen that I serve? And if those are answered, then issues of corruption, issues of not being, of sitting in office and you don't go to serve the people out there, they are going to come. So we need to look at those fundamentals and be able to do them well. One time I remember, was it in 2017, I was appointed in writing by the then Inspector General of Police. And the idea was that let's start an ideological school. Let's start an ideological school. And I had been given a task to make sure that we have an ideological school. And I can tell you, you may be watching, you can see this. I can tell you that all these years, from 2017, 2018, 2019, up to now, we have not built an ideological school. Maybe I will not have the time and liberty to explain why, but I am trying to say it's not there.
Okay.
So now the question is, why have we not prioritized that? If that is answered, then we look at making sure that we have it. We have officers who understand correctly what their mandate is and how they are supposed to deliver that mandate. If we can do that, then we shall be talking about an ideologically conscious police officer. Even if you are not supervised and you are in a community, it is your mandate, it must be incumbent on you to make sure that you serve those people and you prevent crime. I think that is something that we need to do.
Professor, let me come to you. Especially in corridors I have walked through to just listen to layman Ugandans on what they feel the state of security is in their different areas. Afandi Donald talked about Kazo, we'll get to that later. But when you see this crime, what do you see? What is your reading of this? And also, coupled with that, the mistrust that the public has for police, where does it stem from?
Thank you, Timothy. That's a difficult paper. But basically, when we see crime, what do we see? Of course, when you read and you see the police statistics, it is an indicator that work is being done, that tracking is being done, that data collection is being done, and the assumption is that the cases are being followed up. So that is one. The other thing is when you see, of course, we never get to know how cases are concluded, but when you read, or when you read the papers or listen to the news, the challenge police has is, because police doesn't work alone in fixing criminals, there's also a court system. So sometimes police does a great job arresting people and who have done crimes, and the court system releases them. I think that in a way can be demoralizing for police force, because they don't work alone. Their work stops at this level and another government entity takes it up, which will raise sometimes so many questions, because our legal systems are very good, but they are also predicated on an international system that may not sometimes be very favorable to what happens on the ground. So that is one side. So when you see crime, sometimes you see the police, sometimes you see police figures, and the assurance is something's being done. But when you see like what has been trending in social media, it's a little bit scary. And what makes it scary? That actually someone can be attacked in broad daylight and it's business as normal for everybody else, okay? I know the common video at Ben Chiwanuka Street, it was a little bit in the early evenings, but still there was light and there were very many people. But I mean, the guy was left on the floor. There's been another video where people were stopped on a border, but at least that one was a dark alley, and it was in homes. But you see, where is a flying kick is given to a place like Benchwanka Street with everyone around and people go away. So that is in a way scary, not just because the crime occurred, but the response of the people around the event. And it shows you that even if you had millions of the police, they will be good to have, and we need police numbers increased, but it will be difficult for the police to work when those around them do not think this is something worth intervening. And of course, we shall argue that the police is mandated and paid to do that, and they must do their work very well, and I know they report on their performances per year, they are evaluated. But I think there is also a need for the community not to just let it. And I know in Uganda we do that. Everyone leaves something for someone else to do. If it is with schools, we know we don't discipline our children at home because we expect the schools to handle it. And if the schools don't handle it, then we are screaming at the teachers who are also parents with their own families. So we have the thing of abdicating responsibility to the next level. So when you come to an issue of crime, incidentally, of course, most of the crime we have in Uganda is property crime. It's burglary, it is stealing, it is... And interestingly, in every community, people know who the thieves are, okay? People will know, even on the street, they will know, okay, if your bag was picked, it must have been so-and-so who operates from the other channel. And so someone somehow always knows information. But sometimes this information is not very forthcoming to the police because maybe, as you said, there are issues of trust. And I know sometimes the issues of trust arise because sometimes the public thinks the police is working with the criminals. And this attitude or idea is fueled by the fact that sometimes people report and nothing is done about them, okay? And sometimes, as you say, in communities actually have, many communities have like police posts, but sometimes the response to crime is small. And you know, when you talk to stakeholders in this industry, you get different ideas. Some people tell you that sometimes a burglary in a place, if you are to respond to it and your police post and you all go, it might be a decoy so as to have the police post attacked. So sometimes they don't respond. But you see, when a member of the public calls and says, I'm being burglared, and please respond, and you're being robbed at 2 a.m., and the police tells you shall come at 8, and faithfully they come at 8, then you have a problem. When police officers who are supposed to be in a police post are seen hanging around, and you know we now have community policing, which means the police has to be closer to us. But when they are seen in trading centers playing matatu with the people there, people then wonder, so on which side is the police? Because the social perception of people who play matatu, guys who just hang around, is that they also commit the crimes. So if your OC station is also with them, the OC station could argue he's doing community policing because it's very important to bond with the community. Maybe that is his way of intelligence gathering. But also, when then a crime occurs and this officer is slow at responding, then the conclusion of the community is that they are together. But when all has been said and done, I think security is a two-way process. We have already said it's a collective action problem, in that its action, its benefit is enjoyed by all, and that means actually its responsibility should be by all. But you know, the nature of collective action problems is while the benefits come to everyone, not everyone is ready to put in their fair share. And that's why the government hires the police and the army, because we all love security, but we don't want to do much about security, okay? So when they do that, then it becomes an issue. But to go back to your question, there is an issue of mistrust, I think not just with the force, but with some members in the force. And that's why even when things occur, still people call the police, okay? We all complain about police holding the traffic for long, but we also know that when they are not there, the traffic gets worse, even with security lights. Okay. So there's some level of faith, or maybe hope, or holding this organ accountable, because however bad it is what we have, so it must shape up, okay? So people's disgruntlement with the police is not that it should be relegated. No. Rather, it should be made to perform better. So for the officers here, it's like we are still looking there, even when we are complaining. So you must do things better. So you have that. But the other issue is we cannot leave it only to the police. If we have seen something, can we do something about it? And I know there's a lot of fear, and the fear is about repercussions. And of course, some people have complained that when you report crimes, sometimes the criminals within, like that Ben Chuanuka Street incidents, maybe would have taken you down. But that means you need more police posts. But anyway, that having been said and done, there are actions some communities have done. Like some of the communities where we live, we know that crime goes with darkness. So I know if a poor community is very poor, the state has a responsibility to provide. But if a community is not so poor, and you can get together and bring a security light, bring it. And I don't mean a security light at your home, a security light on the street. Light alone will drive criminals away because they don't want to operate where there's light. Then, of course, there are issues like CCTV cameras. A lot of times, private CCTV cameras have been very instrumental in the police handling crime or solving certain puzzles. So that is very, very important. Then there are certain things like being your neighbor's keeper, which actually we have lost. If a home is being attacked, the other neighbors will just pray that it doesn't come here, instead of saying either we respond or we also call. But so you do have that. Of course, also keeping our things secure. You are not going to leave your house wide open and then you want the police to do something. So in short, there's a lot we can do as a bit of responsibility of the people. And then we also have our eyes on the events and also be able to report. We cannot just say, this is none of my business, because tomorrow, when it is your business, you'll also wish someone would have said that. But of course, beyond the police, we shouldn't look at the security issue as beginning and ending with the police. They are drivers to crime. High youth unemployment, high population growth, high levels of urbanization. There are limited jobs. And of course, government has immunized everybody, so has managed to resolve things like infant mortality, under 5 mortality. So people are healthy.
And we're living a long life.
And they're living longer because I think the life expectancy has increased substantively from 1986. So what does this mean? You're going to have people in a place who desire good things, but don't have the means to get those good things. And you're not going to wish them well because they're not going to drop dead tomorrow. The health things have been improved on their side. So these people are going to desire, they're going to desire a mobile phone, they're going to desire good food. Like if you see now on social media, there are people who post things and they're very young, energetic men telling all of you we are hungry and they're pointing a finger. So when they cannot find food, they're going to find the food somewhere.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'll come back to a point you have mentioned there, especially on understanding society as we go forward.
Okay.
Afande Donald, come to you. Does crime in this country have a pattern? And what is that pattern? Because we saw with Zambia, we saw fires, then we saw break-ins of mobile money, then we see these kicks that are coming up. They seem to be a wave every year of a certain pattern of crime. Does crime in this country have a pattern? And what is that pattern? As security, have you taken note of that?
Thank you. I agree with you that we have had phases or waves of crime. We've had Zambia, you've had women in Nansan and Katavi being killed. When you recover from that, you have terrorism. When you recover from that, you will have Karamajong as well as that side. When you're done with that, you have armed thugs attacking mobile money and hardware and big supermarkets. Like I told you, crime graduates. If you have people snatching phones today and you detain them for 2 years and their sentence is done and they return, they are more hardened. They are not rehabilitated. And when they return, because they have been sharing with murderers, they are more sophisticated. That's number one. Number two, like she has alluded, the urbanization levels in this country creates safe haven A place which had 4 homes has now 1,000 homes. You have people who have no homes, who have no parents, who have nowhere to sleep, and you don't know how they survive. And they are available, like she has told you. They are not dying tonight. They eat. They don't work. They will always plan, and when they are put out, they will reorganize. And that's why you see one phase being defeated. They go down. Most of the people who arrest, like the ones you see in the videos, have just returned from prison. Meaning you have 2 years of this person detained, he's done with his sentence, he returns. He appears in a different shape, in a different area. That's number one. Number two, I want to assure the viewers that most of these videos you've seen, we've arrested the suspects. And if anybody comes here and brags that it was our capacity, it was our numbers, without the help of the public, he would be a liar. Because even one of the suspects, we used the private camera. I don't think the owner of that camera knew at one point he would help the institution. So each person in this country has a brick to put, has a responsibility to perform in line with security. There is no monopoly over security issues. If anybody says, leave those matters to us, he's a big liar.
What are the biggest challenges of police as an institution?
Police started at a wrong footing when it was established in 1906. It started as a repressive force. It started as a colonial agency to stop demonstrations by Ugandans, to enforce cotton growing and other cash crops. So it was not liked by the public from the beginning. After independence, the regimes that followed used the police as a tool to force people to support regimes and other bad things. So they were known for beating people, for robbing people. So there was that gap between the public and police. Now, until late 80s and in early 90s, as he will tell you, the strategy of community policing appeared because we were not progressing. You are arresting people, you are taking them, they are returning, people don't give you information, you sit at your post, you wait for a crime to be committed, and people come and report, and that's a post-mortem. Somebody is dead, the cow is taken. So we moved to community policing to cure what I have told you. On the belief that police is the public and public is the police. That whereas you want to do good things for the community, you can't do good for people without them. There is nothing good for them without them. If you want the area to be peaceful, why wouldn't you involve the people in that community? Why wouldn't they determine how they should be policed?
Yeah, that's the ideology.
Why wouldn't they sit down with area police to identify the problem in that area and have the solution? 3, he has told you, the resource envelope is coming down every day. And that is across all institutions. Because of post-COVID results, because of so many things that me and you know. The level of partnership before, to move to community and say, please allow a police facility to be in your area was trouble. But as we talk now, you have areas where they say we have constructed for you. Recently, I saw a motor vehicle of Chambogo University for police. He bought a vehicle and gave it to police. You've talked about issues of trust. Honorable Sechko was telling you they closed their police posts. In an area where they don't trust police, if you close the post, they would say, thank God we've survived these people. People are saying, bring back our police. Bring back our bad police, if you may use that word. You have numbers of police not moving with the population. Ideally, we should be recruiting annually, and he knows it. You sit in committees, budget committees, you're in parliament, what are you doing? You asked him here. As the population increases, population in police should increase. And that brings me to the fact of working with our sister forces. In a situation where you have the resource envelope coming down, what do you lose by having a patrol car being shared by military police and UPF patrolling Kampala? What do you lose if you have a joint operation? What do you lose if you have joint training? What do you lose when you have Namugongo matters and you have SFC, you have military police, you have counterterrorism with one mission?
So who leads that drive? If, let me use Afande, he's here. If he's SFC and UPDF and Honorable Sechikubo is military police and you are the police, who leads that drive?
Police is the lead institution. And he has told you.
Afande, what you're saying is ideal. The reality is
it's
different.
practical. You have different structures. You have JOC, you have interagency meetings, and they are chaired by Inspector General of Police.
Yeah.
So it's not the idea. It's happening. You go to Namugongo. Inspector General of Police is the overall commander. Yeah. But you have different forces. And what we should mind is what are they doing, not who is doing it. Because who is patrolling, who is on a 9-9 is secondary. What is primary and what the viewers and the people of Uganda want is what are you doing? What is the end state? Because security in itself is not an end state. You wake up and patrol, so what? Security must lead to development at the end of the day. If Kampala is secure, people will invest. Jobs will be created. As you are saying, you have unemployment. And when you have jobs, if you have factories, if you have investors coming, your tax base will increase. This country has a vision called Vision 2040. We are in National Development Plan 3, and we are sectorized. You have security sector. And what we are doing must fit in the vision to realize that dream.
Afande, you have the idea, like Afande Kasinja was saying, you have the ideology, how does that translate to the officer that is beating up an opposition member? What happens to a police officer that is telling you, please give me something so that you can move? There's no institution to trickle that down?
First of all, to the viewers and you, institutions are run by policies and guidelines. And trust me, you will not find a policy that tells its police officers to beat people, to be unhuman, to solicit bribes. Most of the things that you see are individual messes. Like in the other institution. You must have watched a member of parliament boxing a police officer. We're talking about a honorable member. I doubt if that represents the picture of parliament. We have courses. We have police courts. I don't know whether you've heard of them. We've had a point where we suspend, where we expel police officers, where we take our own police officers for refresher courses. Because you're dealing with human beings at the end of the day. When I remove this uniform, I have flesh and blood. The police officers you see are your own sons and wives and husbands, and they come from you.
Afande, you're talking about a honorable punching a police officer, but we've also seen police officers being promoted after committing a crime.
I don't think the basis for promotion is committing a crime.
Then, because he led for 20 years.
When you
really
commit a crime,
then
you're punished.
Afande, that is not a true reflection.
It is, but you see, Ugandans, some things don't make news. When I commit a crime now and I'm punished and I serve it, shouldn't I be promoted after 5 years or 10 years? I don't think there is a basis of promoting people on the bad side of their professional jobs. It's not possible.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at some of the incidents that have happened, but also discuss where elections will be secure come 2026. And also, Honorable Sechikubo will be our next panelist to explain to us who benefits from this tainting of the police, but also who benefits from this crime. This and more after this break.
National Heroes Day of Uganda takes place on 9th June every year to commemorate the brave people who laid down their lives during the Ugandan Bush War that took place between 1981 and 1986. This year, the 35th Heroes Day will be commemorated under the theme Hail Our Heroes, a secure Uganda is now reality. On Sunday 9th June 2024, all roads will lead to Mpenja Church of Uganda Primary School Playgrounds, Mpenja Sub-County in Gomba District. Join us to witness heroes from different parts of the country receive medals to recognize their contributions to the betterment of Uganda from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who will be the chief guest on National Heroes Day. All this will be broadcast live on your national broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. I am joined by Professor Sarah Sali, Afande Asan Kasinje. I'm joined by Honorable Sechikubo Theodore and Afande Donald Muhwezi. We're discussing everything, the crime and the police in this country, but most of all, how do we keep ourselves secure? Honorable, let me come to you. I'll be getting to some of the feedback in a short while. A lot has been said, but I also know that a few years ago, the president stood, especially at the heightening of crime, and gave measures. Some of those, we had CCTV cameras, we had fingerprint, we had people not putting on jumpers on borders. How far with these measures from a welfare perspective for defense and internal affairs?
Well, I think the president outlined his vision on how to combat then the sparing violence around not only Kampala but in the entire country. And indeed, name them, there were about 12 measures, including number plates, etc. Though of recent now, I'm seeing some were taken up and processed, whereas others didn't. For instance, I'm seeing the number plates, they are being changed. But though that one is still with the government vehicles, about the number plates, where he said they needed to have those that possessed chips that could be tracked.
Yeah. Number plate recognition system.
Number plates recognition systems. The chips could be embedded on those number plates. But so far, it is still with government vehicles. And I can't imagine how this will be rolled out to private and border borders. I don't know how that one will be done. But I think that was positive. It was the right thing. It was positive to be able to track vehicles, motorcycles that were involved in crime. And you remember, motorcycles by then were mostly used by assassins and all kinds of criminals. But at the broader side of it, not all these measures were put in place or were implemented. And for us, what we look at is the bloodline. The moment you do not facilitate those activities, those measures, they're as good as spoken, but at the implementation stage, you can't go far, you can't do much. And to me, probably, we may have to ask once again, and I hope we should find opportunity to ask how far have we gone to implement the present strategies in combating lawlessness and crime. Now, to me, as I sit on the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, and I listened in well to the professionals, to combine efforts, yes, but look, they are the core values of each and every agencies we're talking about. When you talk about the UPDF, their core values could have some linkage with the police, but their emphasis is mainly on territorial borders and boundaries, the protection of the country's property and life, and ensuring the national sovereignty. Whereas the police is here every day in everyday life. This is where the difference is. Particularly now that we have listened on the external threats, the emphasis should be the police. And to me, panelists here have talked about the ideology. The ideology is good for everybody to know we are at point A, this is where we need to move as the police force or as a country. But that is at the ideological level. Come to the practical terms. How would I be ideologically well-oriented when I'm not able, when I'm unable, when I'm not enabled to perform my core mandate? To me, this is where there is a problem. You could be well-oriented. You could have nice institutions. You could upgrade these colleges at Bwebaja. It was a big innovation. Not only, as you can see, not only to the police, but to other agencies, the prisons and the PDF. But as long as what determines the progress of all this is how able you facilitated. And to me, the moment we don't answer that question, all these will remain a mirage. As long as we don't put our money where we feel it should be put, where we need it most, I think there is a mismatch between what are our core necessities and the requirements with the budget. Unfortunately, I may not put blame to them. The resource envelope is small and we all need to touch it. But can we please prioritize Look at the cameras. The cameras, the CCTV along the highways. I won't say it on camera. But when we have a break, Donald should tell us how many of those cameras are still operational. How many? The intention was to move it countrywide. How far have we opened up? How far have we rolled out to other districts? Is it at the district headquarters only, or it was meant to reach down to where it is needed most? It was meant to be done in phases, but how far have we done that? So to me, the problem is more bigger than we can discuss tonight. But at the end of the day, we need to scale up. Now you added something. Now that we're approaching to the elections, what are the major threats during elections? Yes, there could be terrorists and terrorism, but I think by and large, during campaigns, we have not seen incidents where, and this we must thank the police, probably the vigilance and other security agencies, there hasn't been any major terrorist occurrences to these rallies, etc. But how are we prepared now that we know we are in the financial year 2024, 2025, and like it or not, the other coming financial year 2025, 2026 is an electionary year, but the process starts even now. It started yesterday. How are we moving towards 2026? There is that build up. It can't be overnight.
The vehicles for 2021 elections arrived in 2022 because they were.
Honorable, and let me put you on the spot.
Yes.
You just passed an enhancement for the UPDF. At what point did you pass enhancement for this institution called the police? You have spoken of what it needs and everything, but Donald could be okay as a police officer, but the constable, the sergeant.
Donald is also not okay.
Let's put it in.
The difference between the salary of a sergeant and my salary could be 100,000. A sergeant now gets 560. And a police officer at my rank, who is a cadre, gets around 860. So if you're saying Donald is comfortable,
even then,
he's not.
Even then, he's not giving you the full picture. Even amongst the police officers, those who are science-oriented, they're taking course, working in cameras, etc., they get quite much higher than their seniors.
Other scientists get in other government institutions.
So you see those discrepancies, and who had meant to have them harmonized. Yes, there is that corrigenda on top of the budget. You remember, we had the corrigenda that came in at the last minute, and my quarrel then was, you've not allowed us to interrogate this corrigenda to see how much have we allocated to the institutions within our sectoral committees. If this portion is for the police, by what percentage are you enhancing the police? But what we saw for this, indeed, it was some good times. What was the original case? And that's why we are saying that, look, there is a problem. These agencies, once you talk about security, and this emanates from the Constitution. The Constitution provides that the President shall be the commander-in-chief of all armed forces.
Okay.
And from that position, therefore, from that standpoint, I, as a member of the committee, the Parliament of Uganda, government should strive to harmonize, to have them move together at the same time without prioritizing one and you marginalize the other, because there you'd be causing a lot of demotivation rather than the high spirits, the motivated force that we all love to see and have.
Thank you, Honorable. I have Dr. Nathan Muhireza online, a criminal consultant there. Doctor, are you with us so that we can be able to engage you in this conversation?
Yes, I've been struggling to join you. The technology we've been talking about has been kind of a challenge to me, but now I hope I'm heard.
Yes, Doctor, and it's good to have you with us here today. I think you've heard from the different panelists as they have submitted there. From your view, when you see the crime in this country and how it's progressing, and also look at the measures that were suggested by the President, 12 of them, some of them implemented, some of them not being implemented, and year on year we seem to be having a wave. When I look at the police report 2022, it had an adjustment upwards of 18%. The one of 2023 had a drop of 1.5%. What do you make of the crime in this country, and what should we be doing, both as citizens but also as institutions of security?
Yeah, thank you so much, moderator. The truth is we are having huge problems. The panelists have been talking, and I'm impressed by their submissions. By going direct to the question and probably to the topic of the day, how does the public engagement and technology help in promoting community policing and supporting law and order? I think police must be commended for the little they are doing. The fact that they are few in the first place, and that the training they get is actually not to the standard we would have really wished them to have. I'm sorry to say that most of the training they go through is more of military. They are doing a great job. Now, the challenge of criminality in Uganda is not just about gadgets or tools or technology, or it goes beyond all that. It goes to the mental sets of people, including the police officers, including the officers in different offices. Criminality is becoming so inherent that even those who are tasked to police it are actually engaging in criminality. So while all this is coming up, people who are even supposed to manage them, including the gadgets, are actually using the gadgets to survive, again committing crimes in the end. That said, where we are moving, I think there is a big need for us to create more voluntarism. Many people who are working in most of these agencies would be called volunteers because they are paid little. And if that word could be used in its reality, then we would see more better service delivered. If people worked for the benefit of others without necessarily wanting to benefit. I see members talking about us not paying the police officers well, and that's why they are engaging in craft or doing other things. I think that is again just by the way, because even people who have better monies, if we can now call them better monies, the scientists and so on, they are actually yearning to get more and they are engaging in criminality. So it is all about voluntarism, and this goes to everyone. And security is not about them providing security to us who are civilians, but all of us being aware that we have to volunteer. Then the issue of the police and of course other security agencies engaging the public or the communities to remove the mistrust. I want to tell you that members of the public are now mistrusting the agencies in most cases. In the village where I come from, people will tell you, instead of going to police, I would rather find a solution myself. Because when I go there, they will ask me for even money to transport a suspect and so on and so forth. So to remove all this, it needs an overhaul, which is not being done. The CCTV cameras, the other gadgets coming on board, if we don't remove that distrust, we will be going through what we call dark figure phenomenon in crime, that people will just keep back. It's until they feel that they can't handle it or they can't manage it or they feel terribly affected that they make noise. Otherwise, they keep quiet. Unfortunately, most of us who are technocrats, we pretend that it's not about me. Yet, at the end of it all, it's about you. If, for example, we who train at universities don't help or don't help handle the participants in the training to realize the effect of criminality. Look at an engineer who goes out there and then decides to steal cement being built, used to build a storage building, not knowing at the end a mother or a father or anybody of his lineage may actually get affected. So it's a big problem that we cannot just solve by putting a few things here and there. Just like Honorable Sechku has just put it, we have a bigger problem, and it all goes back to our mental state as citizens of this country. And if we don't change that, and then even if we paid our police officers and everybody involved big monies, we will still yearn to have bigger money. And so mental set change is my take, that we cannot solve this problem without us changing the mindset from down, actually from family level, from the households, the parents and children. We need to do something from that level. And if we don't do that, whoever is coming out as a criminal in one or another. And you know, criminality takes 3 disciplines. The first one is sociology, that how do you help this child who is growing up in your society to know that this is bad and this is good? How do you build those value systems so that they don't make these children want to become rich so fast? Number 2, the psychology. Give me a child who knows nothing and I will make him or her anything. So if we don't change the mindset, that's what I've been talking about, which is psychology, then we are headed for problems. Then the law. There are some laws that are being put in place haphazardly, or we would call them reactionary.
Okay.
When homosexuality came
Doctor,
up,
just hold it right there.
We put laws in place which don't actually.
Doctor, let me just jump in there.
Yeah.
Allow me jump in there. Just give me a few more minutes. Let me come back to you on some of those. Let me engage here, Afande Kassim. A lot has been said, especially from Afande Donald there. But let's go back to the measures. Were we too ambitious with these measures? Did we understand? Because you and Donald are here as people that really pioneered this community policing. And you also said the community helps you understand how it should be policed. Were we too ambitious?
We are not ambitious on the measures. You remember...
Or was it a knee-jerk reaction?
No. You remember there was crime in Kampala?
Yes.
And surrounding areas. And the president gave us 2 weeks to come up with the measures. And we traveled, we met him, and we gave him a document that contained what he wanted to do. He came to Parliament, and we got those 12 pillars, okay? And we began implementation of the pillars. And they were not ambitious. These were realistic things that we needed to do. Now, we must interrogate where we have reached. Because you see, we're talking about crime. He talked about organized crime that keeps on, changing face, and then they come up again. The question is not that they are changing face. The question is that probably we are not implementing the measures properly and consistently, isn't it? If we interrogate those measures, and if Parliament, as he was saying, is a member of the Internal Affairs, Defense and Internal Affairs Committee, if they themselves, for example, call the police and say, we give you money to do this and this and this, how far have we gone? I want to say that some of the measures do not need a lot of money. Yes, I agree that the CCTV infrastructure needs the money, which money was not provided as it's supposed to be. But let me interrogate one, and that is having counter phones. The measure of making sure that if there is a crime in the area, members of the community can call the police, and the police will react in the shortest possible time. I remember we even calculated the number of minutes that we are supposed to be, that we were responding to crime, and those that are needed to respond to crime. Something like, should be below 15, because we're at 15 minutes. Should be at international level of about 5 minutes. And this is how we explained it. Such a simple methodology. And it started in Ukoma Nsimbi. Remember in Ukoma Nsimbi, in the eve of fast, as people were celebrating, drinking the joints and all these, people came with sticks. You remember the Chidawarime, Galiwango, Musa Galiwango, and group, and they came, hitting people, including a police officer, SSP Sebugwao. And then when we came at Chibinge, and he came and met us, that's when he came up with that idea. And he was saying that someone called the lady who was attacked, called the husband who was in Mubende, the husband called the RPC in Masaka, the RPC called the DPC calls the OC station. All that time, where are the thieves, where are the criminals? And this is how it was simplified. Put counter phones, number one. Number two, popularize the numbers. They should be popularized using this village Bizindaro, or even where don't we have FM stations, FM radios? Popularize them. Number three, have motorcycle squads in the compound of the police. Stand by, maybe 3, maybe 4. And this information is got from someone who is controlling these phones, who does not do any other thing. Their responsibility is make sure that they get information, and this information is relayed to the people who are on standby. Now, that cuts the issue of the mobile phone, which we normally use. Because at night I can switch off the mobile phone. If people are calling the DPC all the time, DPCs also can go to church, can go to the mosque. And crime is being committed. Now, how is it going to be? When information is given to the people who are riding motorcycles, they will move to the scene of crime. Probably they're also coordinating with mobile patrols that are in place. You remember, under PDM. Okay? Security is part of the terrain of the PDM. And the PDM is supposed to have a motor vehicle with a number of police officers. They are coordinating. And I can tell you that reduces crime. Now, the phones were taken, they were bought. I can tell you the director of ICT then, because it has been changed. These phones were taken. I went throughout the country as chief political commissar, inspecting these phones, and wherever they were not there, I would call him, Senior Commissioner Sewanyana. Where are the phones? Here the phones are there. Afande, I'm going to bring the phones by tomorrow, by Friday, the phones are going to be. I'm not going to leave Apache until when these phones are there. That is the kind of understanding that we are there. Okay? Now, so the problem is not the phones. The problem now, which I want Donald to take, is what is the problem with the implementation therefore? How come that members of the public do not have those numbers? You saw the people in that video who someone was being, hit, and they looked unbothered and they moved away. Probably, if you're fearing they are going to attack you, probably they would be calling. You understand what I'm saying? They would be calling and would be seeing responders, fast responders, people who are coming. So how much money do we need to implement that measure? So I think we should now be able to delineate the measures that we can implement without even too big budget, because they are there. Those measures are there. Community policing, which is implementing now, something that I have been part of since 1994 up to date, does not require colossal amount of money. It requires mobilization skills. It requires giving information. It requires sensitization. It requires visibility, being in the communities. People should be able to see you. For example, where they operate, these boys, where they operate, I can tell you they operate in an environment when they know that police is not there. And if police is around, it will take them some time to do what? To come to the area. Am I right?
And that's where my question comes to you, Afandi.
Yes.
When you look at what you're saying and remember what the president said, because I remember then he had the State of the Nation's address.
Yes.
And I think a few days later he came back to address these same issues.
Yes.
And give the 12 measures.
And he also called us to State House, all the commanders in the police who went there.
One of the things that has been the underlying is the infiltration of the police by criminals. How is that really being resolved? Because all the measures seem to have a counter measure to avoid them being implemented in place. This Kawukumi business, at what point, because I saw Chifesi at some point a video and this man bragging how he knows how the police moves, how things happen in security, and how security cannot come in certain areas. And I know zoning of criminals has been done. How do we counter that to be able to have safety of people and their property?
I think the number of years I have been there, I can tell you I want to agree with Donald. There is no policy at all. Because when people talk about it, it is as if it is a non-written policy that there is infiltration and police are dealing with criminals. Yes, I want to agree with him that you are going to see some people doing that who are not doing the right thing. You are going to find some corrupt people. You are going to find some, because they are corrupt, because somebody goes and steals a phone, he knows that someone operates in a certain area. It could be the one stealing phones, okay? And it does not bring it to the attention of the commanders that in my area, there are people who are operating this way, who are doing this, and we must be able to operate against them. But I also know that intelligence can pick that up. And the intelligence of the police is up to the job, by the way. Now, I will never agree, because I was there, I was chief political commissar. I can tell you that even nobody, no police officer, no commander worth being called a commander, that is really comfortable that there are police officers who are doing this. And I know there are structures within the police that are always looking out for this. But I can tell you, human beings, there's going to be someone who is going to do that. At one time, I was in charge for many years of the police appeals court. I was the one sitting at the hearing for more than 20 years in charging these people, taking action against them, clearing out the cases. And I think even it took a lot of my time of moving out to the public, because I had also to deal with this issue. And I can tell you that everybody who has been found doing this has been charged, and the cases have been decided. Some have been dismissed, some have been discharged, some have had their ranks, taken away, and all this kind of thing. However, this cannot be done without what we started with, the question you asked me. And I think we have to have are they called gate measures? The measures at the gate, at the entry. We must have that. And there is no way we are going, even by the way, to debate this. The people we bring in, how we train them, the way they understand their mission, they must know that, must be patriotic. They serve this country. To know that this is a Pan-Africanist, mission, that what happens here and what happens in the area, do we know that? That must be correctly, Once you do all that, then the issues, these issues of getting working hand in hand with those people, it should not be there. That should be incumbent on every police officer. Now, the one you're talking about at Katwe, I was the PRO, by the way. That was 2017, okay, at Katwe Police Station. And there was that press conference, and some people said, I was operating with so-and-so, I was operating with so-and-so. That was camera. But when now they began to investigate and say, who exactly did that? They never pointed out anybody.
And Afande, before I come to Professor, one more just, because now the political climate is becoming a very tricky situation. Every electoral year, or every election, 2001, 2006, 2011, 2006, every year just becomes worse. Human rights violations within the police. You are PRO.
Yeah.
The mayor of Kamwenge,
yes.
The wounds we saw there.
Yes.
Yesterday we saw the initiation of the new IGP and the new deputy IGP. And then we saw General Tafire talking about, you know what, this needs to stop. The president has also said,
yes,
don't shout at the wananchi.
Yeah,
don't. When does it end?
Campaigns and elections they are known. It's not something that is going to happen and we've not known. We have an election that is going to take place in 2016.
2026.
2026.
Yes.
The planning must be now. We must not wait for 2025 to start knowing that there is going to be this. We have a rich history in all these, campaign violence, electoral violence, and all these kind of things. The tapes are there. The people who have been policing in this environment, they are there. He was a DPC in Isinjiro, he was a DPC in Ruengo, okay? They know everything is done. For me, I think what we need to do now, security forces must start planning, must start training for that process, must start looking at the leadership and how it is going to be. Before the money, because I know the time is going to come and people submit the budgets. People are going to be running up and down, compiling and submitting the budgets. But I think where there is no plan, and planning in earnest, planning area, to make sure that by the time we go there, these things should not be there. I think, for me, that is what I take as important. The Electoral Commission is there. The plans are there. Have we started having meetings with them, with the Electoral Commission? Have we now done a kind of an assessment of what happened there, what was not handled properly? How are we going to handle it with the Electoral Commission? Okay? What about Defense and Internal Affairs Committee? What should they know now? Okay? What should they know now? That when we come knocking, they will understand exactly the challenges that we face as the police officers. I will end up with this. We need to start engaging the public. We need to start education. I have mentioned three things. We need to do education. We need to do sensitization. We need to do mobilization. Actually, we start with mobilization. His department is too critical in this. We must now start going out and begin mobilizing the public and talking to them. That the other time we had this situation, people died in this city, right? In November, I think,
Yes.
November 20th.
2021.
Yes. People died in this city. Nobody wants to see that again. Nobody wants to return to that. How are we planning for it? How are we planning to make sure that nobody does that?
Okay.
So we need to begin mobilization and making sure that that does not happen. And I think that gives us a way forward on what to do.
Thank you very much, Afande. Professor, I think the videos you mentioned, especially the one of Benchwanuka, and even the one of, there's one of Kawala, then there's another one that was of Wavamuno Road. But let's stick to the one of Benchwanuka. When you look at the response of the public that was around, it is aloof. That is a concern. How have we gotten here as a society? We are known for being hospitable, for running to incidents when there's an accident, helping people. How did we get to such a state as a society to be aloof?
Okay, thank you, Timothy. I think the first thing we need to note is society has changed, okay? And I think this also goes to how we are planning to deal with these new vices in our society and the challenge that we should not deal with them the old way. I know when things come up, we have the general analysis, the family is the problem, let people get good morals. And that was it. So when you see what has happened at Benchwanuka, it was a clear indication that one, society has changed. Two, that people are not at the level we want change to start, which is the family. These are people on the streets you don't know. Of course, the guy said he came from somewhere in Mitiana, so you can't say the street child. He came from a family, I imagine, but I wonder what that kind of homestead was like. The people on the street are simply traders, or they are simply shoppers. And this happened. And as I said, part of the reason things like that occur and get away is because people know there are consequences to you coming in to help, consequences to you as a person from the thieves, okay? So you don't know how many they are, because I was asking what happened. It's like, one, you can't know how many they are. You don't know whether the other people you're shopping with are equally thieves. So you take the choice of watching and hoping nothing will happen. So you have those kinds of things. But also they have arisen from the perceived distrust of the police. And as I said before, I'm one who thinks the police has done a lot of work and they should continue doing a lot of the good work because the work they do is commendable. But some people don't feel so because their experience with the police has been very different from what some of us have experienced with the police. And as the colleagues have explained, the few errant officers, once they are discovered, they are always dealt with. But then do you go back to the public and say, this one who was seen beating people, we disciplined or we discharged? Because as long as that is not there, we the citizens keep counting which police officer committed which crimes and is where. But as he said, we may not know that a disciplinary action was taken. I know once in a while in the newspapers, there are those they have disciplined publicly, the pips are removed, but those are very, very rare, okay? So, and I think it takes a higher authority to do that. But I think what people are dealing with on a daily is the police officer knowing that this is the crime and then doing something about it. But you see, if that is not done, it has consequences to us as a people, but also it has consequences to those who report crime. Because they could be boxed. You could be the next candidate for the flying kick or for a box in the ear. So you just don't know. So people mind. But it is sad because it shows the death of our humanity as a people, that something can happen and you ignore. Because also when that happens to you, which is a matter of time because we're in the same city, it will actually not matter to people. So that is the scary bit of it. But also I think part of the reasons we've gotten where we are is what people have said before. The police seems to be very stretched and with limited resources. I know the police officers in this house look nice. They are smart. But there are some police officers in some places where the police post is a tree, and all you can do is you read and they'll stamp there something police post. And this person is alone, or they are two. They have to manage a village which is as big as a constituency. So if in that village, well, maybe Ugandans luckily enough respect, but if in that village people begin cutting each other with pangas, like we've seen in some areas with land, and they're chopping each other because they've disagreed on a boundary, it takes long for these two people to do something about 100 enraged people. So of course they have to call, and then they call for backup, and then backup comes. So when the population, and now that is something which has happened during daytime, but if in the night time you are operating in a tent, like there's this tent in Chibali forest, which looks very funny, but also looks very scary. Or there used to be a police post in Karamoja, but thank God you constructed a house. But by that time it used to be a tree with, yes. Yeah, now they are nice structures. But by that time, it was just a tree with a plaque that it was a police post. So then the police officer would carry a stool in the morning and sit under this tree. And then you'd know that there's a police post. In the evening, we never knew where he went to sleep. So such a person, you're not going to expect him to be a first responder to one issue, even if you reported that there's rustling here. The person is alone. But we appreciate that a lot has been done.
Yeah,
there are
better,
buildings,
much better.
But also there are more people on the ground. But you see, the very nature of police will always breed that kind of distrust, because it is the, not just first response, it's the frontline force that we see. It is the face of security. So everyone literally wants a police post nearby. But you see, you cannot have, the country may not have enough resources to put, and by the way, it's not just Uganda. I did my PhD in the UK. The police used to deploy where the neighborhoods were fairly safe, where they knew that those people push drugs and they're likely to fight with knives. They would be allocated like 2 police officers who also wouldn't turn up because they didn't want to lose their lives. But of course, in another area where the community was big, you would find a small incident. There are like 10 officers. They're all interested. So at the end of the day, you're dealing with human beings who need backup and who need cover. These are people who are household heads. They have families. They are not here to do a job where you are dying for the nation.
Professor, let me switch the question a bit also.
Yes.
This electoral period is a
Yes.
double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Very enthusiastic police officers, very charged political actors who are looking for political clout in this whole season. The clash is the grass of the people that are there. You can see it now already, the temperature of the electoral season is already picking up. How do we manage this climate, both from the political angle, who are trying to get clout, but also the police that is trying to keep law and order?
Yeah, thank you. I think one thing we have to appreciate is that the police is very well trained, if it's allowed to do its work. They go through series of trainings at different levels, and one of the things they really train them to is how to handle people who are agitated and unhappy. So they try to do that. But what you tend to see in events like electoral campaigns, like land grabbing, like whatever, is you have civilians who choose to deploy the forces in things which are not right. Of course, if it is a riot, if it is a fight, if it is, even if it was a campaign trail which started well, and on the way to build momentum which might harm other people, the police will swing into action. So we need to distinguish when is it an over-enthusiastic police officer arresting people randomly, and when is the police force reacting to a potentially dangerous problem. And then, thank God to its professionalism, they try to distinguish this by arresting where the over-enthusiastic police officer has gone beyond the margins. But again, it goes back to we, the politicians, the civilians. What do we choose to do with the police force that we have been given to us? When we deploy or we recruit police into the wrong activity that they're not supposed to do, then you create a problem. Okay, so I hope and pray and believe that the police is going to do a professional job come to elections. But as I said, you have a charged environment where they will be provoked. But I hope that they will use their training, which is very highly skilled training, to respond to the provocation in a highly skilled manner. But where the individual is endangering others, they also have a code and SOPs of how to deal with that, which sometimes we read as being over-enthusiastic and criminalizing, especially when that happens in one political camp and it does not happen in another political camp. So I think it is about, and maybe that's where the police PRO should do much more about educating the masses what police is about, okay? Police is not just about, if I want to grab the other one's land, I go deploy police and do that. We know that can be a bad thing. But also to know that while police is there to protect law and order, and to protect we as people and our property, they are not only protecting me, but they are also protecting you. So because they are protecting me, I don't have the right to violate your rights. So at the end of the day, it's a balance. Okay?
Rights and
I have
responsibilities.
my right to demonstrate on the street, to do what I want to do, but when my rights interfere with other people's rights, then there is a strict code of conduct of what the response should be. And that one, as we go to the campaign, my request is make it known to the people what the role of police will be in these things and what police's expectations are going to be, and where if lines are drawn or are bypassed or surpassed, what the police is likely to do.
Thank you, Professor. Let me read some feedback that has come through. This is Andrew from Kisoro. He says, good evening, Timothy. The crime rise is a systematic recruitment of inherent criminals into the police and the military for the last 4 to 5 intakes. Secondly, there is a formidable patronage by the big politicians abetting crime in exchange for political support. Okay, thank you very much. Someone else, Silvas, says, in some places, the police stopped responding to crime. They only want to do post-mortem after the crime. Their response will be after, and they will say, we have no fuel. Other officers are simply drunkards in communities, so disrespectful, and have no command to prevent crime. Okay? Silvas again continues and says, I'm not inciting violence, but the community members should be collaborating to handle such crimes seriously. Some criminals are just taking chance of unorganized citizens, e.g., that Benchwanuka incident was negligence of the onlookers, and the criminal was left free to act. Finally, Sembusi Ivan says, for the current insecurity incident in the country, I think the following may be the cause. The terror. One is poverty caused by unemployment. That was something that Professor said. Lack of indoctrination of the police, desperation of the public, negligence with our security system, family ties and breakdowns, deep-seated anger, and then the moral decadence in the country. Those are some of the messages that we've managed to read through. But as we come to the tail end, I'll give you parting shots. I'll start with Professor Afande Kasinje, Honorable Sechikubo, and finally Afande Donald. Professor, please.
Thank you, Timothy, and thanks our viewers who have stayed with us for this long. I think the issue of crime is a very important issue. It affects all of us. I think it's very important that we all take it seriously. And we have always been told the biggest security asset is our eyes. So when we see this is happening, I think let us reach out for each other. Let us have Ubuntu. Let us be each other's keeper. You may not take on the thief with a flying kick, but at least you can call at the nearest police station. Number 2, let us do what the little we can do to support the police. For example, some of the areas we have stayed in, we know that if you apply for a police post to the nearest big police station, and you make your case, you can be given a police post. Sometimes this comes with you providing support to the police post in terms of rent. Some of our areas, we have had to buy a motorbike for our guys to do patrols in the night. And that goes hand in hand with the repair. We have a WhatsApp group in the community. So you're told this time the bicycle has broken down, this part is the one which is broken, we need 10,000, someone chips in. Sometimes you need 50,000, sometimes you need 100,000. But you see, this goes together with the community. We are in a community, the police is in the community, the discussions occur on the WhatsApp group. If there are any changes, that happens. And by the way, even when you come to areas like security in terms of elections, communication is put on that group. And you're told some do's and don'ts. And in the case of danger, these are the hotlines. So we appreciate that that could be a few of the communities around, but the point I'm trying to say is that keeping law and order and keeping security is not only the role of the police. Police is mandated and financed to do that, so we challenge them to do better, but there's also a role we can play collaboratively to deal with the criminals. And we shall, like on that group, people will always know that there's that thicket there, I've seen a person there, is posted on the WhatsApp group, there's rapid response. So let's work together to stamp out crime. And in case a colleague is affected the way it happened on Benchwanka Street, let us be courageous enough to intervene. Sometimes the criminals are not as many as we think they are. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to add on what she said. This is our police. They have their mandate, but we also have a mandate. Let us support the police as communities, as stakeholders. For example, we talked about elections. And I think this is the time that we should start seeing political parties engage the police. What do you expect the police to do when you begin this? We must begin to chart the way forward now. I know there are those who want a situation where they are going to report wherever they report, that you see this is what the police are doing. The readiness is to highlight the wrong things they have done. And to them, that makes you know, I would think that the time is now. Let us engage the police. I was so happy I saw NUP engaging the police, but that was about the issue of whether they go to Busoga, they don't go to Busoga, and that kind of thing. Let's not wait when it's the time. Let's begin earnest. The other one, my parting shot, is to my colleague. He's my brother, really. I would even actually call him my son. Okay, is that we need to begin to work on the measures that were, these measures have never been pulled down. The presidential directives, if I can call them directives, are still there. So we need to go and start looking at what was done, what was not done, and the reasons as why it was not done. And you will be surprised is that most of the things we're talking about do not need a huge budget, as I have said. So let's go back and begin to have meetings, you know, and joint meetings. And we say, here we did not do well. We need to go and do well. And accept everything that comes from the public. And I want to inform you, I should be able to inform you, because about a week ago, I think it's not even a week, I went to my to my X account, and I wrote 7 things that I think should be done to be able to improve security. They were generic things which are known by everybody. And yesterday, somebody brought me a small recording. A senior officer being asked, Mr. Kasenje talked about this and this and this. Did you read this? What do you think about this? When are you beginning to? No, go and tell him we should write to us for fishery, then we shall look into this matter. My God, when we talk about community policing, when we let every member of the community give the views, even what has been discussed here, somebody should be able to take stock and be able to do something. So please, we need to go now. Business begins now, and yes, begins now. Honorable, my parting shot is that you should also now be calling them, not really to ask them where they, you know, the accountabilities are there, those issues are there, because you're also an oversight, you have oversight issues that you need to do. But I think you need to call them and say, tell us where you need your assistance, and we assure you that we shall do whatever is possible. The police would want to hear this and be able to work. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Afande. Honorable.
No, Timothy, thank you, and for inviting me tonight. I think all has been said. Save to add something. The relationship, the perceived relationship of police and the general public. That's one. Number two, now that we are going into an electioneering period, the partisanship of the police vis-a-vis other political parties and actors. And you have a big toll to prove that you are for all Ugandans, to prove that you accord fair and equal treatment to all the political actors and political parties, whether government or opposition. And that's why we were happy when you had an in-house meeting with NOP. Those of us who look and supervise police were happy that you took that approach. I want to thank you in front of viewers. It was positive. And I think even the outcome was beneficial not only to the parties, the NOP, but all Ugandans involved. So we thank you. You deserve the credit. Be proactive, continue that way. Number two, I think a lot still needs to be done. The police is the lead agency, particularly in the electioneering period. We can't run away from it. There is a tendency to provide the budget in the last year to the election, and that shouldn't be the case. It should be a build-up to the election period. So they need all the support, all the budget support. And I think for only motorbikes, they need something like 6 billion for repairs. And the bikes are now all grounded. They need them to be moving, and this is the time. And not only for the electioneering, but it should be the case. Because life doesn't end with elections, but there is life even after. So you need all this. You need to be working together with the sister agencies. Yes, I've seen the message. That Article 112, it allows you. But please be in charge. I've seen instances where actually the police is led. Instead of the police leading in particular ways. And this has been happening. Particularly the military, please rein in on the military. The police officer, a professional, is giving directions, is giving orders, but he's overridden by the military. And that is causing a lot of concern. Be in charge, they are there to support you, they are there to buttress you. You are the one who must, even in the first place, they must be called in by the police. Take charge, and I know every person, every Ugandan will fully support you.
Thank you very much.
So far, so good, we thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Afande Donald.
Thank you, Timothy, and the viewers. I want to pick on 2 things that have come up. One is the welfare and the salary. I want to talk to police officers watching this show. Nobody should give an excuse of low salary to extort from a poor old woman. Nobody joins police without knowing how much a police officer earns. Know that I don't want our salary to be increased. How I wish it can be increased, like for the members of parliament. But do teachers steal? They earn less than we earn. Do doctors kill patients because they don't have enough salary? No amount of excuse can be given for being ineffective. There is no proof that highly paid government officials are effective. In this country, we know people who are paid highly. We also know that there are those who are actually corrupt. So there is no relationship between high salary and the output. At least for now, there is no proof. So nobody should sit there and belittle the citizens and extort money and sit on files on the premise of low salary. 2, we've come from far. You've talked of police stations in trees. I have been to these village districts, new buildings, new structures. I was in Kwanya, I was in Oyam. there's a time when police was in massacre. And when the people of Katov asked security without informing the community, the DPC took about 5 police officers to Katov. The entire community in Katov took off because they were not used to police coming. Go to Wemiyaga, where he comes from. Go to Chebongo, we've moved from region to district to sub-counties. And we are growing. It's work in progress. There's a time when a DPC would have a motorcycle, but you will find 9 nines. We can discuss the maintenance and how good they are on another day. But the force is growing in number, is growing in tools, is growing on education and exposure. You have PhD holders, you have masters, you have people doing courses in human rights. So there is no excuse for police officers not to perform their duties. Last is about elections and the hype, and police is a reflection of the community it comes from. We don't get people from Kenya, we don't get people from Mars. These are the people. How the voters, the politicians, the actors in this process behave is likely to affect how we'll behave towards them. We have Uganda matters going on, and I don't think we'll get time on these days to come back. Millions of people. Every year, our numbers of people who come increase. And that's a vote of confidence in security. People used to come from Kampala and Wakiso to go there, but now people walk from Kanungu, people walk from Tanzania.
Maracha.
It's a sign that there's trust in our capabilities as police. And as those people come to renew their faith, the police officers manning this international activity must.
It is some level of devotion.
That is also true.
Read, in 1984, pilgrims were killed here. But if 1 million comes and goes back, it's a sign that there is trust, that there will be no attack, and the police officers must not betray people. We must renew our commitment to the people. We must clean our image using this activity. And to the community, like I've told you, there is no monopoly in this. You can actually be killed by your wife or your husband at home. So you must do something at home. You must raise good citizens. Honorable Sechikubo is not kicking people on streets, not because where he grew up there were good police officers with 9 and good fuel. But he had a family that raised him to be what he is. Let's do our part at a family level. Let's do our part at a community level. When you combine different homes and different communities, you will have a better country. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank my panelists. I want to thank Professor Sarah Sali. Thank you very much for coming through. As a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Hassan Kasinja, thank you very much for coming through. Honorable Theodore Sechikubo, thank you for coming through. And Senior Superintendent of Police, Donald Muhezi, thank you very much for coming through. To you who have watched us up to this time, thank you very much. There's a lot of feedback that has come through. Some we didn't read. We really apologize, but thank you. Happy Matters Day, and we'll end it this way. You can either make excuses or you can make progress, but you can't do both. Good morning.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
National Heroes Day of Uganda takes place on 9th June every year to commemorate the brave people who laid down their lives during the Ugandan Bush War that took place between 1981 and 1986. This year, the 35th Heroes Day will be commemorated under the theme Hail Our Heroes, a secure Uganda is now reality. On Sunday, 9th June 2024, all roads will lead to Mpenja Church of Uganda Primary School Playgrounds, Mpenja Sub-County in Gomba District. Join us to witness heroes from different parts of the country receive medals to recognize their contributions to the betterment of Uganda from His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who will be the chief guest on National Heroes Day. All this will be